will meet our obligations fully in terms of protection of the civilian population in South Ossetia, which has suffered repeated attacks from the Georgian side. 3 years ago, in summer 2005, Saakashvili also tried to launch a war on South Ossetia and occupy it by force. And our peacekeepers will not allow the recurrence of what took place in Srebrenica, the recurrence of the similar thing in South Ossetia when the Dutch peacekeepers were unable to prevent genocide, and we know how hard it is still for the Dutch leadership. We will not find ourselves in a similar position, and our peacekeepers will not find themselves in a similar position either. Itatas, please. Minister Lavrov, yesterday the UN Security Council failed to adopt the resolution proposed by France on South Ossetia. Is Russia going to propose its version of such resolution? Our version of this resolution would be quite simple, is to ensure that no Georgian troops are stationed in South Ossetia and are not stationed in the Georgian areas from which South Ossetia can be attacked and fired against. And the second element is obligatory signing of a document of non-application of force. And now we are holding talks at the UN Security Council, which is the main body for maintaining international peace and security, and such resolution should contain an unambiguous qualification of what has happened. Thank you. Norwegian radio and television. Question to Minister Lavrov. You said that Georgian troops are to leave South Ossetia, and you've said that they should be withdrawn from the areas from which they could not attack South Ossetia. How far should they go from South Ossetia? 10, 20 kilometers in order to be outside this area? Should they leave, or should they be withdrawn from everywhere, from every place they've used to attack South Ossetia? They've used military bases in the neighborhood of Gora and other areas in Georgia from which military operation against South Ossetia has been undertaken and actively supported. It is up to our military to identify areas in Georgia which should be demilitarized and monitored. The town of Goria, I don't think it's a military facility, but in the neighborhood of the town of Gora there are facilities that are actively used by Georgia to attack South Ossetia.
Crucial question to you. Minister Lavrov, the current situation has demonstrated that unfortunately many Russian partners, including Western partners and United States, failed to demonstrate good reason, and it said and it blamed Russia for the conflict with Georgia. Are you going to change your policy in your relations with these partners? And then second question, you said that Russia will force those to blame to face international court, including those to blame from the Georgian party. How are you going to reach that end? And yet another question, how can the European Union and Finland justify actions of Georgia now after President Saakashvili violated commitments he made? How do you assess this? Thank you. Now, as regards our further relations in this area and all other areas with our European partners, with the United States, we will continue the same policy that we've been adhering for the past 2 or 3 years, and that is we will openly spell out our assessments, will raise all matters of concern, and we will count that by doing so we will get our partners involved in frank and open discussion of all problems without trying to disguise problems, without trying to reverse them, because we believe that only frank and open discussions will allow us to find a solution that we will back. As regards specific experience and cooperation on South Ossetia, we are deeply disappointed. I can assure you that we've had contacts and very sincere and confident discussions with the European Union, with Finland, until the very last day. We had discussions on the eve of Georgian aggression against South Ossetia, and at every occasion we were assured that our European Western partners send necessary signals to Georgian leadership and try to convince not to use force. For the past 2 years we've had chances to witness that at certain points such signals had effect on Mikhail Saakashvili, because at certain points when we knew that he had intentions to attack, he didn't. We were thankful to our Western partners for keeping Georgia from dangerous actions, dangerous for Georgia in the first place. But we saw that at this point our Western partners failed to deter Georgia, and it got out of control. I've talked a number of times with Dr. Rice over the past few days. I think we've had some 5 conversations since Georgian aggression began. You probably heard that she found it possible to voice some of the confidential matters we discussed. Therefore, I'd like to also spell some light on what we discussed, although I did not intend to do that. Dr. Rice tried to convince me that in our public comments of Saakashvili actions in South Ossetia, Russia should refrain from such words as genocide, ethnic cleansings, war crimes. When I asked her why, do we not have the right to qualify it in those terms, because it is evident such an assessment would be supported by stories of journalists, your colleagues, that died in the conflict. But a couple of days after Dr. Rice asked me to refrain from such works, Saakashvili, against the background of either European Union flag or Council of Europe flag, in a hysterical manner declared that Russia is trying to annex Georgia, and imagine, used the term ethnic cleansing, but he accused Russia of ethnic cleansings. I presume that after Dr. Rice talked to me, she simply did not have time to address the same request to Mikhail Nikolaevich Saakashvili.
I'll be very frank and open as well in my answers. First observation, a question, how is this going to influence Russian and West relations? I don't think there's time for psychoanalysis right now. I personally, Bernard Kouchner, and the rest of us have been able, or have been trying to engage in frantic diplomatic efforts, and we've only had one aim, a ceasefire. We can make an analysis of the situation at a later stage, but I think all of our energy should right now be focused on a ceasefire, be focused on a peaceful solution, and be focused on trying to find a pathway for humanitarian aid to the region, both sides. I'll be very frank with you, as chair of the OSCE, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of the battle of words that we see coming from left and right. If that battle of words would be used wisely and be put into what we right now need, a peace effort, I think we'd all be much better off. You asked how can the EU and Finland or the OSCE